Pretty safe to say that if you're looking for a good road tripper, this GV60 it'll be fine, but it's not anywhere near as efficient as the IONIQ 5, and I believe the EV6 is even considerably more efficient. So IONIQ 5 and the GV60 agree perfectly with the odometer. Something is wrong and off with the EV6. I've only got 8 miles of range left on this GV60. Clearly, I don't know if I'm going to make this. This is going to be interesting. So, welcome to the very first inaugural episode of Out of Spec Dave, where we've got a comparison today that is just something I've been dreaming about. So first, you'll notice we have the Kia EV6. Now, this is not just any EV6. This is the GT Line EV6. And then we've got the Hyundai IONIQ 5, my own personal car. I love this car. It's about to be sold, but I still love it. And then some of you may have heard that my wife just took delivery of the new GV60, and here it is. So we have got here, since the last time these cars met, probably in South Korea, today they are back here in Stamford, Connecticut, and we're gonna do a range test, an efficiency test, and then we're gonna plug them in from 10% to 80% and do a charging test. So stick with us, folks. This is gonna be a good one. Somebody's checking out the Genesis. I wanna hear your first impressions. What do you think? Be honest, are you a Tesla guy?
He's a Tesla guy.
You're a Tesla guy?
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think?
I think
It looks nice.
It looks good, right?
The wheels look nice. The body shape
the
is
wheels,
nice.
everything. Yeah,
I just don't like the headlights. That's it. But the wheels look nice. The body shape is nice.
What don't you like about the headlights? The split?
Yeah.
See, that's the Genesis signature though,
Yeah,
right?
they made it a signature.
They split them on even the GV80s and the GV70s, but
you know,
yeah.
I don't mind it.
I feel like it'll grow me up.
Yeah, it's that's good. Well, folks, you heard it right here, first-hand impressions. This man, what's your name?
Eric?
Eric does not like the headlights.
I like the wheels though.
He likes the wheels. All right, that's good. All right, I'm loving this thing. But everybody's got their opinions. That's what makes the world go around, right? So,
Absolutely.
all right, guys, thanks very much. So, folks, here are the rules for today of what we're going to be doing. But first, I want to introduce my new friend, Paul. Paul is actually a subscriber and watches the channel and reached out to Kyle and said, hey, listen, I've got an EV6. If you ever want to do a comparison or if you want to check out maybe my car, let me know. He lives up in northern Connecticut. What town do you live in?
Little town called Willington.
Willington, Connecticut. And Paul was so gracious to come down here to Stamford and do this test with his beautiful EV6 here. And what we're going to do is, unfortunately, we're two guys with 3 cars, and we're not going to be able to do this as scientifically perhaps as Out of Spec Reviews usually does. But here on Out of Spec Dave channel, we do things maybe our way, you know, so we'll call it the old guy way, right? If you don't mind, Paul.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah, well, that's right, speak for myself. But in any event, here's what we're going to do. Each of these 3 cars are fully charged to 80% right now. And we just did this over here at the Electrify America station here in Ridgeway in Stamford, Connecticut. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go out on a loop and we're gonna drive these cars from 80% all the way down to 10%. And well, actually, we're gonna drive the EV6. You're gonna drive the EV6, Paul. And then I'm gonna drive the IONIQ 5 and we're gonna take it down to 10%. Then we're gonna plug both those in and we're gonna see how fast they charge. We all know that the E-GMP platform, whether it's Hyundai, Kia, or Genesis, they all claim 10 to 80%, 18 minutes. I've seen it before. Paul, you said you saw what?
20 minutes is the best I've seen.
20 minutes the best he's seen. But today we have, I mean, it's the perfect day to do a range test or an efficiency test because it's about what, 78, 79 degrees, somewhere in there out. There's not a lot of wind. So I think we're gonna get some good results here. And now after we get back with both the EV6 and the Hyundai, we're going to charge them up. Paul's going to go back home, and I'm going to thank him for his time today. And then I'm going to get into the GV60 and do the same exact loop. Now, I know it's not going to be exact It's not going to be the perfect comparison, but I'm going to go on the same roads. There'll be different traffic, there'll be different speeds, but we're not going to go super fast, probably no more than, you know, 5, well, I'm not even going to say, we're going to go the speed limit, of course, right, Paul? So, but anyway, that's the game plan for today. So it'll be an efficiency test. We'll be able to check out each car in terms of which is more efficient in watt hours per mile, and then a range, and then a charging test to see how does it charge, how do each one of these 3 cars charge from 10 to 80%. So let's start the road trip. So, you know, as I'm here with my new friend Paul, I'm just thinking to myself, what an amazing day to be able to have the best of South Korea sitting here in Stamford, Connecticut. The GV60, the IONIQ 5, and also the EV6. Now, one of the things I want to say is that the EV6, Paul has actually got 2 of these things, believe it or not, which he's going to explain that in a little bit. But this is the GT line, and he asked me, Dave, which of these 2 should I bring? And I said, well, whichever one has the 20-inch wheels, and the Wind has the 19-inch wheels. And so we decided that he would bring down the GT line because it's got the 20-inch wheels, which is the same as the IONIQ 5, which also has 20-inch wheels. Now, unfortunately, well, maybe not unfortunately, but the GV60 is riding on 21s. And so clearly, I think it's going to be a little bit of a disadvantage from an efficiency standpoint. But one of the things that we're trying to do today is to keep as many variables to the same. So Paul, what we're going to do is we're going to keep the fan AC on, the fan on 1, okay, and the temperature on 71 degrees.
Okay.
Can you live with that?
Sure.
All right, cool. So can I. And that way, that's good. The tires, we checked them all, and they're all at the manufacturer's spec, so we should be good there. I'm trying to think what else. We're gonna basically just drive a route from, like I said before, 80% down to 10. But Paul, tell me, what are your thoughts about today? And first of all, thank you so much for coming down. One of the things I want to do with this new Out of Spec Dave channel is a lot more collabs. So you are the honorary first collaborative member of Out of Spec Dave, and I want to thank you for that. But in any event, what are your thoughts about these cars?
Well, and yeah, it's fun to be here. You know, it's a lot of fun. I just also want to say, like, the cars are all stock. My car is stock, except the front windows I tinted, and it has ceramic coat on it. But other than that, there's nothing altered. And I think obviously the Genesis you just took delivery, so that's stock, and the Hyundai is stock. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the comparison between the 3. I think that between the Kia and the IONIQ 5, the Kia should win from an aerodynamic perspective. I think it's a little less of a brick.
Oh, hey, that actually brings up, we're going to run these cars in eco mode. Right.
Eco mode, and I was going to ask you about the regen, like, you know, because.
Oh, so let's go regen. What do you think? Regen 3
or 2 or 3?
2 or 3?
Your call. Just we shouldn't be an iPedal because that engages.
No, you're 100%. You're right. What do we have here? A Model 3. Look at that. All right, beautiful. But I think we'll go. Do you normally drive it in 3 or 2? What do you do?
Well, around town, I'm in iPedal.
I am too. Right.
On the highway, I'm usually 2.
2. Okay, so let's do 2.
Okay.
Okay, so regen level 2, eco mode. Now, the thing about eco mode is it supposedly keeps the front motor disconnected. However, if you give it some, if you romp on it, right? I noticed that the graphic at least shows you that it's going in. But okay, so that's good. But anyway, you were saying about your car and these others.
Yeah, I just think, you know, the Kia should win to the IONIQ 5 from an aerodynamic perspective, and the Kia should win to the Genesis simply because of the power. You know, you've got the bigger front motor, and
okay,
you know, even if it's engaged.
All right, so your prediction is that the EV6 is going to eke out more miles from 80% down to 10 than either the Hyundai or the GV60. And you know what? I actually agree with you, because
tires and performance pack on that.
Well, no doubt that one's out of the game, right? Yeah. But here's one thing. The GV60 has battery preconditioning. And you know what's really interesting, Paul? Remember we were talking about the 12-volt battery charger and that video I made for Out of Spec Reviews where I came out and my car was dead? Right. Look at this. both the GV60 and the IONIQ 5 just sitting here. Maybe because they know that I'm filming today. They're like, oh, I better charge the 12-volt battery. But what's interesting is, Paul, you never saw that.
No, I've never. So it appears that I've got that indicator there. If
Right.
that whitish, opaque white disc is an indication of the same sensor. I've never seen that lit up.
You've never seen that lit up.
No,
Have you ever made a video for YouTube before?
No.
That could be the reason.
Yeah,
Okay, maybe they've got like some secret code. But it's very interesting to me that both of those are on. But back to the battery preconditioning. The GV60 has, this is a 2023 model, and it actually has battery preconditioning. And so I would have, had the temperatures been at an extreme today, let's say really cold or really warm, I would place the wager on the GV60 to win the charging test from 10 to 80%.
Sure.
But because we're sitting here on the most perfect day, 77 degrees Fahrenheit out, I don't think it's going to have an advantage. As a matter of fact, I don't even think that the battery preconditioning will be turned on when I put the destination after taking this car out. What I'm going to take this one out on the same loop later on. But I don't even think battery preconditioning will even turn on, because the battery will most likely be at the optimal temperature. Now we will, before we charge, we will plug in the, if you're okay with it, the OBD2 port, the V-Peak.
Sure.
And we'll use the car scanner app, and we'll look at the battery temperatures between all three cars after doing the same loop. And that to me will be interesting. They are technically the same battery packs, 77 kilowatt hours, but it'll be interesting to see what the true temperatures of the batteries are. So I say, enough talk.
Well, and one more thing.
Oh yeah,
I would
not
just
enough
say,
talk.
if the wind was here, if I had the wind here,
Oh yeah,
that would blow them all.
Well, that's why we decided not to have you bring the wind.
19-inch tires.
Right.
And I find that, everything else being equal, it's 15-ish miles of range better on the wind than the GT.
I see.
In eco mode, that's just the difference between the 19s and the 20s.
Okay.
So the 20s to the 21s on the Genesis
Right.
has to be, my guess would be something similar, 15-ish miles.
If you get thirsty, if you need, just give me a call,
Okay.
and we'll stop. Again, we're not doing like some kind of, 70 mile an hour test, whatever. We're going on a loop. I don't know where we're going.
We're gonna drain it to 10%.
But we're not going on 95, because man, 95 today,
It's a mess.
it's a mess. So we're probably gonna go north. I'm thinking the Taconic. I don't know. We'll see where we go. But anyway, hang in there. This is gonna be a fun one. I say it's time to go. So Paul, if you want to back out and follow me out this way. And
As soon as I start moving, I'm gonna set it to regen level 2.
yeah, sounds good. I'm doing the same thing right now. Oh, I just went to I-pedal. I went the wrong way. Level 2. There we are, level 2. So as we start our trek on the Merritt Parkway, now in Greenwich, Connecticut, just a couple of thoughts about my IONIQ 5. A lot of people were asking, Dave, you only had it since February, March, whatever. Got 8,660 miles on this car. Why are you selling it? And I don't know, maybe call me an opportunist, because I love this car. Now, I bought this car at MSRP. A lot of people are saying, oh, you were privileged to get it at MSRP. Well, look, here's the deal. If you want to buy an IONIQ 5 at MSRP, you got to shop around, and there are dealers that will sell you cars at MSRP. In fact, a week and a half ago, I just happened to call Hyundai 112 out on Long Island, and they had an SEL that they were going to sell me if I wanted to buy it for MSRP, and the only fee they had was a prep fee of $175. No $999 or no $699 fees or anything like that. So I'm not saying that they're super liquid assets that you can always find easily, but if you're willing to travel and you're willing to talk to dealers that have inventory, a lot of people order cars, they cancel them. You got to be there at the right time. But I bought the car, I got it, I got the $7,500 tax credit, and this car I traded in my ID4, and so I paid very little sales tax on this IONIQ 5, and so what I ended up doing was, basically it was about $57,000 out the door for this car, 57.5, somewhere in there. I asked Carvana, how much would you give me for it? And they came back and said $60,000. So yes, I get the $7,500 tax credit on this car for calendar year, tax year 2022. And then when you add, let's be conservative and say add a $3,000 profit on the IONIQ 5, I'm making $10,500 on this car. So I don't know how long this sort of situation with used cars, pre-owned cars, is going to be inflated. But when there's huge demand for limited supply and you have a product and you're willing to part with that, then that's why I want to do it. I'm selling the car opportunistically because I'm able to make a few bucks. And, you know, forgive me if those who don't like the fact that I'm looking at it that way, then forgive me. I can always buy another IONIQ 5. But interestingly enough, when I wanted to keep the IONIQ 5 and I wanted my wife to sell her Porsche Macan and just, you know, we would get, whether we would get the GV60 and or a Tesla or a Lucid. And so I said, honey, if we keep the IONIQ 5, then we don't really need to get the GV60. We could just get the Tesla, the new long-range Tesla, or perhaps the Lucid. And she didn't want to drive this IONIQ 5. It just wasn't her. And so when we went into New York City, the Genesis house down the meatpacking district, and she saw the car for the first time, she loved it. And she said, that's what I want. I want that car. And look, Kathy, she works hard for a living. It's her money. She decided she wanted to get that. And then I said, well, do I keep the IONIQ 5 and we drive the IONIQ 5 and the GV60, or perhaps do we sell the IONIQ 5 when it's getting strong money? And so that's really the rationale about it. Now, having said all that, I love this IONIQ 5. It rides great. It's been, with the exception of the 12-volt battery issue, which has never come back, you know, and I keep this V-Peak adapter in the car all the time. I know a lot of people said don't do it, but I do keep it in there all the time. I no longer use my iPad in the car. I've got this ProClip USA mount right here for my iPhone, which is great, and I love CarPlay, and I use that all the time. And the phone being right here with the bracket, it works out really, really well. So I've really enjoyed this car. I will miss it. However, the GV60 that I picked up yesterday on behalf of my wife, who's down in Florida for the summer, it's just next level. Everything, I know it's the same exact car, I get that, and underneath it is, except for the fact that it's got the same rear motor. I think it's a 160 kilowatt motor that's in the rear of whether it's the EV6 or the IONIQ 5. But the current generation of the EV6 and the IONIQ 5s have a smaller front motor. I think it's half the size. Whereas the GV60 Performance, because we got the fancy one because it had the Napa leather seats, but that's got a 160 kilowatt motor times 2, one in the front, one in the rear. So the thing flies. But everything about the car feels super familiar to me. It's just the materials that are built into that GV60 are just a notch above. They're a little bit nicer, well, arguably a lot nicer than what's in either the Kia or the Hyundai. It's a completely different environment. The software that they've included with the car has a lot of features in it that I didn't recognize at all when I took delivery of the car yesterday. There's going to be a pretty steep learning curve here if you choose to want to use all the different functions and features that are in the car. But you know, the GV60 and the EV6 and the IONIQ 5, I mean, honestly, you cannot go wrong with any one of those cars. They are charging at enormous speeds, 240 kilowatts we saw earlier. and deep into the pack, you know, and so the charging is great. The one issue that I have with all three of these cars is the range, and that's why I personally want to have. I think what I want to try and do is have one car that has at least 320 miles of range, preferably 405. You know, the new Tesla, the long range. I wouldn't get a Plaid like Kyle did, because that just a lot of money, first of all, and I don't need to go that fast. But I do like the range that's in the Tesla. I do like the fact that the Tesla supercharger network is pretty much everywhere, and I also like the fact that now with the adapter, the CCS adapter, if you have a Tesla, you can charge on both the CCS network as well as the Tesla supercharger network. So the options are getting larger in terms of if you've got a Tesla. Now I know that over in Europe, they are charging Teslas on they are charging CCS cars on Tesla network, and I believe that's going to be coming here to the States soon as well. But selling the IONIQ 5 right now opportunistically is the right move for me in my financial situation, my personal situation. That way we'll have the GV60, which is going to have whatever 230 miles of range, something like that. That'll be Kathy's daily driver. And then when we want to go on long road trips, we're going to I'm either going to buy a Tesla Model S for sure. I've already had the 3s and the Ys, and I want the little bit larger car. That's just my own personal preference. And or the Lucid, and we'll see. There probably will be a lot of car deals in the future for me. You know, those of you who say, how come you keep changing cars? I just do, right? And that's something that I enjoy. I've done it for a long time. But right now, in these economic times, you know, if you're smart about it, you can actually make money trading these vehicles, especially when the tax credits are taken into consideration. So if the government is willing to give you the tax credits, I, for one, am willing to take them. I'm not trying to abuse them. I'm just trying to do what is available to me and under the circumstances. So if I buy a used Tesla, or even if I buy a new Tesla, there's no tax credit. So we'll just take that into account. So those are my thoughts about the IONIQ 5. I love the car. Here we are heading up towards 684 on King Street in Greenwich. We're going to be going by the White Plains Airport and then heading north. And yeah, so those are my thoughts on the IONIQ 5. Love this car. Will miss it. Carvana, come pick it up on Wednesday. Give me 60 grand. Can't believe they're paying me that much money, but they are. Hey, so Paul, let's do a check-in. I think we're gonna head. We're actually on 87 heading west. Let's go north on the Taconic right here, and let's just do a check-in. How many miles have you gone so far? I've gone 56 with 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour. What are you showing?
I'm showing 55.6 with 3.5.
Okay, that's weird. I mean, how? So I've gone a half a mile further than you have.
It seems that way.
But I've seen you in my sights the whole time. That's weird. I'm just about here. I just hit 56. I'm at 56.4 now. 56.5.
Okay, so we're a half a mile apart on the trip odometers for some reason.
So the summary is the IONIQ 5 it's like a time machine. It covers a half a mile more than the Kia EV6. Okay, so here we are on the Taconic, and Paul and I have been comparing notes. I've traveled about a half a mile more than he has, and we're not We're not really sure why that's the case, but currently I'm at 53% state of charge. He's at about 54% of state of charge. And I think we're going to take it down to, at least in my car, the IONIQ 5, I'm going to take it down to 46% and then turn around and go back to Stanford, and we'll compare. The EV6, the GT Line EV6 so far, without question, is more efficient than the IONIQ 5. And I think that it is due to aerodynamics, as everyone has thought about, but we shall see for sure in a bit. But just wanted to do a quick check-in. So we're at 53% state of charge right now, taking it down to 46. We'll do a flip-a-rooney, flip it around, and then head back. So we're basically up here in Poughkeepsie, New York, Millbrook. It's beautiful here. We know enough, Paul and I both know enough not to speed on the Taconic. Speed limit here is 55. And the cops, the police, doing their jobs very diligently on this road for years, have the reputation of do not speed. So we are not. Anyway, we'll check in a bit. All right, so we've made it halfway to our turnaround point in the loop style test that we're doing. We're somewhere up on the Taconic, and it's actually beautiful. What a day for a motorcycle ride it is. But we have a little bit of an interesting situation here. Paul, do you want to explain what's going on and why? I think I'm confused. Are you confused? I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I'm a little confused, but I'm easily confused.
Oh, okay, well, that's good.
So our trip odometers are saying something very different. My trip odometer is saying that we've covered 94.7 miles.
Okay.
And Dave, I think your trip odometer is saying we've covered 95.5.
Right.
So we're 7/10, which is pretty significant.
That is significant.
7/10 of a mile difference, and we've been following each other the entire day. Not a different route, not 7/10 of a mile.
Now, what's your efficiency, miles per kilowatt hour?
I'm reading 3.6.
Okay.
And I think you're reading 3.4.
I am. Yes.
And I am at 46% state of charge.
I'm at 44% state of charge, and I wanted to turn around at 45, which is exactly halfway between 80 and 10. And so I'm hoping there's a turnaround right up here, because we're at one of these overlook places. So I think we will. But what's your theory on why the discrepancy? We're talking about 7/10 of a mile on less than 100 miles.
On less than 100 miles. So the only thing I can think of, we checked the tires. The tires are the exact same size. They're different manufacturers. I've got Continentals and you've got Michelins, but they're both 255 R45 20s, right?
Right.
So the outside diameter of the tires should be the same. The wheels are the same, 20-inch wheels. Outside diameter should be the same, right?
Okay, so like in geometry class, given, that's the same. That's a constant. So what could be the difference?
The only I can think of, that we can think of, is that if the car's not calibrated properly,
right,
for 20-inch tires, because we know that both of these cars come in options with 20-inch tires and 19-inch tires. Right?
Okay, so in other words, if the car, let's say my car left the factory thinking it had the 19s on it, and your car left the factory thinking it had the 20s, what, like, I guess I don't really know enough. I don't understand, like, but that could be the issue, right? In other words, the calibration of the computer for calculating the distance, maybe it's off in the computer itself.
Right, it thinks it's got 19s when it really has 20s, or vice versa, right? If you think about it, if you take a 20-inch tire, right, you take one of these tires and you roll it one revolution.
Or a 20-inch wheel with a 45
profile
tire on it, right, whatever that diameter is.
Right,
right?
the outside
right,
diameter,
yeah,
and you roll it one revolution, it's going to cover a given amount of distance.
Right.
If you took a 19-inch wheel, right,
yeah,
with a similar size tire,
right,
and rolled it one, similar size tire for a 19-inch tire, right, and rolled it one revolution, same outside profile, right, an R45,
yeah,
right, so it's not any bigger in diameter, and you roll that, it should cover a shorter amount of distance.
Right, I agree, 100%.
So if the car is using revolution of the tire, revolution of the wheel,
so how many times has the wheel made it one complete revolution?
Right, if it's calibrated for that, to recognize a mile is so many revolutions,
right,
then a 19-inch should go more revolutions
Okay, so,
than a 20.
so then according to that theory, the IONIQ 5 should be improperly calibrated as a 19, even though it has 20s.
Because it says you've had more revolutions.
All right, now the counter of that, and what we need is we need some physics guys to chime in here with the comments. But the counter argument to that is the way maybe my brain thinks opposite. But if I've got 20s on mine and it's calibrated as 20s, you've got 20s on yours, but it's calibrated as 19s, then my car is going to actually realize that it's gone further because it has 20s versus 19s.
Right. You could be accurate and I could be off, or you could be off and I could be accurate.
All right. We're
not smart enough to figure that out.
We need like that life size, you know, that phone call out to somebody to help us get the answer here. But we're halfway on the trip. I think we turn it around, we head back, and so far so good. What a beautiful day though, huh? For a road trip.
Absolutely.
I wish I were on a motorcycle like you. Look at you over there. He's loving life over there. All right. So anyway, we'll definitely keep this trip going, and we'll talk to you soon. So here we are, 40% state of charge in my car. One interesting thing though, Paul and I just were comparing notes in terms of how many miles of range are left. And on my IONIQ 5, it says 108. And on his car, it said, I believe, 6 miles less range, which is strange. I don't understand that. I am in eco mode for sure. He is as well. And I don't understand why the range would be any different in terms of estimated range, in terms of what's left in the pack. That's kind of weird. Let me call him and see what kind of range he says he has left. So I just spoke to Paul and we figured out the 107. I was showing 107 estimated range left. He was actually showing 98. And one of the things he said is that when he was coming down to meet me in Stamford, he was hammering it pretty good. So I guess that's why maybe they call these things the guessometers, because what it's doing is it's analyzing or estimating the range you have left in the tank, if you will, or in the battery, based on the previous driving that you've done, not on rated range, which is the way Tesla does it. So that's why that's what the difference is. It's less important to think about what the estimated range is less, because you don't know, the computer doesn't know how you're going to drive the remaining miles, which makes sense. The key thing is to look at the state of charge. Now, I was just talking to Paul, and I think maybe I may have not been in eco mode on the way up to the halfway point. And it's possible that I started the trip as eco mode, and we said we would, but for some reason, I don't know why I didn't stay in eco mode. But after we shut our cars off at the halfway point, I turned it back on. I noticed I wasn't in eco mode. And Paul said that when he turns his car back on, it starts up in the same mode that it was left at the last time. So maybe I hit the button inadvertently, which is, I apologize for the drama, but at least now we're going to have data for the second half of the trip going back, where we are losing elevation. We gained a lot of elevation going up into the mountains north of Poughkeepsie on the Taconic, but now we're losing that elevation going back down. So I think that at least the answer for the guessometer being off literally 9 miles difference is making sense to me. He was hammering it on the way down to Stamford. All good. All right, so back on King Street in Greenwich, Connecticut, on the way back to the supercharger, well, the Electrify America charger, at a state of charge of 15%. Now, Paul's currently at 17%, and we're still showing a difference in the overall miles driven, which is very strange. So even if I was in normal mode for the first half of the trip, I've definitely been in eco mode the second half of the trip. There is an odd thing going on between the trip odometers in these cars, and the gap is widening, so it's anywhere between 0.7 and 0.8 of a difference right now. I'm showing trip of on this leg of 85 miles, and Paul is only showing around 84.2 miles traveled. So anyway, it's a strange mystery. You know, we're very close, but I would think in something like mileage that it would be accurate. So more to follow, but the goal now is to pull into EA at 10%. Paul is currently at 17% state of charge. I'm at 15. So what I asked Paul to do is when we get closer to Stanford, if he's at, let's say, 12% or 13%, and I'm at 10, I'm going to pull in and wait for him. And then what'll happen is then once he arrives, we're hoping both 350s are open. And then what we're going to do is we're going to do a horse race. We're going to do an A/B test. We're going to plug both in from 10% to 80% and see which machine charges faster or how long it takes. And again, remember, Hyundai says 18 minutes. I've seen it. Paul hasn't. I predict we're going to see it today. I really do. The temperature outside right now, it's been pretty constant around 81, 82 degrees, and now it's 78 degrees. It's 6:47 p.m. This is leg number 1 of the trip. I'm going to be taking the GV60 out for the same exact run that I just did, and I'm about to finish. And we've got 181 miles, 181. I've got 181.5. Somehow, Paul, who's been, well, I followed him on the way back, so we mixed it up so that I followed him. I'm in charge. I'm in the lead right now just because he doesn't know these roads, these local roads. But we've gone roughly 180 miles. We're going to do the same exact thing. And Paul is being such a good guy. He may actually stay for round 2. And if he does, we decided he's going to drive the IONIQ 5 again. And that way we'll know for sure that it's in eco mode the whole time. And we'll have 2 data points. Of course, the one difference will be that as nightfall hits us tonight, it will be cooler out. So I predict probably better results for the IONIQ 5 if it's going to be in eco mode for the whole trip versus half the trip plus lower temperatures. But we'll see. So stay tuned. Next stop, Stamford, Connecticut, EA. So here we are pulling into Stamford, the Stop and Shop, where the EA station is. Whoa, a lot of sun, a lot of sun. And we just turned 10%. A couple trips around the little parking lot here, and my car, my IONIQ 5, is at 10%. Paul's is at 12%. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull into the EA station. We're going to compare notes for the whole trip, and that way we've got the data to be able to make some sense of between the IONIQ 5 and up to this point the EV6. So here we are. We got an EVgo 50 kilowatt fast charging. We got some urban 75 kilowatt superchargers here, and of course our friendly neighborhood EA station. This should be a lot of fun. So I'm going to pull in here with Paul, and then what we're going to do is compare notes as far as the results of the trip. So stay tuned. So I am not plugged into the 350. I'm waiting for Paul. I'm at 10% state of charge. He was at 12. So he took a picture of his stats so we can compare. But what we want to do next, we can compare the actual efficiency of the IONIQ versus the EV6. But what he's doing right now is he's running his machine down from 12% to 10, and then we got a 350 over here. You can see that one right there. And then we've got another 350 right here that's empty. And this nice gentleman pulled in with his Nero and was originally gonna use that 350, and I explained to him what we're doing. He's like, yeah, sure, I'll move over. So he did that and he moved over. We see the GV60 there. That's the next victim. I wish we had 3 drivers today, but we didn't. So as soon as Paul gets back, we are gonna be doing a charging test from 10 to 80%. I think this is the perfect weather. 78, 79 degrees. It's been that pretty much all day. So this is gonna be a great test of Hyundai's claim of 10 to 80% at 18 minutes. Let's see what these E-GMP platform cars can do. So Paul just pulled in. He's now at 10%, and he's about to activate his 350 over there, number 3. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna activate my 350 over here, number 2, and we're gonna do it at the same time. Not that it really matters if we do it, but it'll be interesting to see. We're gonna do a 10% to 80% test on the EV6 and the IONIQ 5. And so we're gonna make that happen. Let's get charging. All right, charging has started. Oh, I used my GV60 charging plan. I meant to use my IONIQ 5 one. I guess it doesn't matter. Well, as soon as as soon as the IONIQ 5 goes, I'll only be using that. So there I am, 10%, and we're gonna go to 80, and I'm pulling 200 and, what are you pulling over there, Paul?
14.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting.
Okay, so we are 2 minutes in. Still around that 215 to 218, 17 range. Hasn't spiked up any higher.
Here we are at 50% stated charge, 8 minutes in. It's saying that it's 11 minutes left until 80%, pulling 231 from the actual station. And it's pretty close as to what's going into the pack. 224, 225. And yeah, this thing is just a charging beast. Both these cars.
I just ran at 54%. I just ramped down to 183.
54% you ramp down to 183. All right, let's see what happens over here with my car. I'm at 53%. And let's see if the Hyundai engineers talk to the Kia engineers. Right, 54%, touch to return, 184, yeah, same profile.
The engineers sit next to each other.
They sit next to each other. They share emails. Yeah, not surprised because, you know, across the E-GMP platform, they all say 10 to 80%, 18 minutes. So let's see what we really get here. Your battery pack, I'm just I put the VPeak into your car. Your coolest cell is 39 degrees Celsius and your warmest is 49 degrees Celsius. So the reason why I don't think we're gonna hit 10 to 80% in 18 minutes is because the battery pack is just warm. So we've got an ambient air temperature Fahrenheit of about 79 degrees outside right now, but your battery pack is smoking hot, and therefore it's not necessarily going to be the optimal charging session. It will still be very good. I predict it'll probably be around 21, 22 minutes from 10 to 80% on your car. I'm not sure what mine's going to do, but both our fans are working overtime.
Yeah.
You can feel the heat coming out from under there.
It's unbelievable.
So, and it's not quiet in here right now. So,
no.
But these are good charging sessions under the circumstances, because now your warmest battery pack just went to 50 degrees Celsius. That's pretty warm. Usually 25 degrees Celsius is optimal. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, and here I am at 13 minutes in. Dropped down to 162. And it says 8 minutes left until 80 on the charger, which would be that 21 minutes that we just talked about. But overall, screaming to get up to, let's see where we are, state of charge, 69% in 14 minutes, adding 59% to the pack in 14 minutes. Not too shabby. Oh, now ramp down to 116. Okay, his last 10%, that's where the time is. Check back in another couple minutes.
I'm still pulling 116, 117 kilowatts at quite a high state of charge here. 74% state of charge. Keep in mind, ID4s charge maximum 131 under optimal conditions, and this is at 75%, and I'm still pulling 118. I love this platform. I know I keep saying it, I'm sorry. 17 minutes in, 77%, still pulling 118. Very similar to Paul's curve. This is the IONIQ 5. Come on, you can do it. But there we go. 80%, 18 minutes. Hyundai.
Okay, here we are. 17 minutes in. 2 minutes left. Still pulling 118. 77%. 78%. Are we gonna make the 18 minutes? I've never done it. The fastest I've ever done is 20 minutes. There it is.
Look at that, beautiful.
There it is. 18 minutes, added 55.49 kilowatts in 18 minutes.
Okay, so we have finished the first leg of the trip. Unfortunately, Paul and I were the only two drivers, and there was a little bit of, I'm not sure if I was in eco mode for the first half of the trip here in the IONIQ 5. So Paul, being the man that he is, I love this guy. I met him today, and we're becoming like best buddies here. He's like, Dave, I got nothing to do tonight. I'll go for another round. So here it is, 8:30 at night. We started at 2 o'clock today. I think we know what we're doing now. We're gonna go and do the same exact loop that we just did in the IONIQ 5 and the EV6, except this time we're taking this beast here on the right, the GV60. I'm not letting Paul drive this one. I'm in that one. And he's gonna take the IONIQ 5. Now, he just opened the door. Paul, what did you just do? You opened the door, what did you think?
I opened the door, and this door feels so much more substantial and heavy and solid compared to my EV6. When you open it, when you feel the swing, when you close it, it just feels much more premium.
And that's coming from a guy who owns 2 EV6s. So, and I was like, no, that can't be. I just went over and opened up his door, and it feels good. It feels solid, but I do see what he's saying. It definitely,
I don't know if it's the shape or the way it's built, or if it's thicker overall. Maybe it's thicker overall.
I don't know
what it is.
I don't know.
It definitely feels more.
I think it's the color, Paul. I think it's the color. So we're going to watch out for deer tonight.
Yeah.
I'm going to state the rules again. 71 degrees, and this time I'm not only going to state the rules, I'm going to follow the rules, right? 71 degrees Fahrenheit, fan on number 1. We're going to go into Regen 2, and we're going to do Eco. Am I missing anything?
I think so.
I think that's it. So let's hit the road, and we're going all the way back up to the Taconic and back. Then we're going to charge again, and then hopefully I'll wake up in the morning and go to work. I don't know. Let's do this. Paul is taking the IONIQ 5. I'm driving the GV60, and we are at 80% state of charge. We are in Eco. I'm going to make sure that we're in Eco. We're in Eco. We are in level 2 as far as the regen goes, and we are off round 2. Boy, it sure would have been nice to have another driver, but you know what? I think it's good that Paul is going to be able to drive the IONIQ 5. I can't wait to hear his impressions of that car and see how he thinks it compares to his IONIQ 5. So one of the things I notice about the Genesis versus the IONIQ 5, I'm actually in regen level 2, but when I drove the car home yesterday from the dealership, it's interesting how the iPedal control, or the regen level, it feels not as aggressive as what's in the IONIQ 5. And what I mean by that is when it comes to, let's say, under 5 miles an hour, it feels about the same from, let's just say, whatever speed you're going, even at highway speeds. It feels very good in the iPedal, and I love that, especially the one pedal driving with the hold. But under 5 miles an hour, it seems as though they've detuned the iPedal to not be as aggressive and stop as quickly as it does in the IONIQ 5. It clearly feels deliberate to me, and maybe there's a setting within this Genesis menu, which I thought I had the level of aggression on regen as high as possible, but there's so many menus in this car. Everything's a little bit flipped around. For example, the cruise control switches are on the left-hand side versus the right-hand side on this car. It's just going to be a little bit of a learning curve to kind of figure it out. But beautiful ride, very quiet in here, and I don't know why, but the heads-up display to me seems clearer. It seems much more in focus, and dare I say a little bit larger as well. So I'm going to have to pay attention to that and see if that's truly the case. But you know, this car, I was telling Kathy, she asked me earlier, how do you like it? And the way I would say it is, everything is very familiar, but everything is, while it's the same, this GV60 is just at the next level. It clearly, everything is just a little bit nicer, if not a lot bit nicer. It's fast, very fast. That's not what we're going to be doing tonight, is going fast, but the car moves effortlessly and it feels extremely solid. And the lighting at night, boy, when you open up the door and you see that crystal ball, I don't know, even for me, it looks pretty good. It's quite beautiful. So those are some initial thoughts. I will miss the IONIQ 5. Paul's driving behind me in the IONIQ 5. I can't wait to hear what he thinks about it. You know, especially coming from owning two EV6s. We'll catch up with him, I'm sure, in a little bit of time here. So as we get off the Merritt on King Street, exit 27, and head over to the Westchester Airport, and then we're going to jump on 684 again, same route that we took earlier today. I'm noticing something in this ADAS system, this HDA1 or HDA system, that is interesting. On the Merritt, some of you who are maybe familiar, it's a tree-lined highway, some nice trees on either side, and some pretty high-speed turns. Some of them are relatively, I don't want to say steep, but they're pretty sharp turns. And I had the cruise control with the auto steer set for 63 miles per hour. And around the turns, the car was slowing down with no other cars in front of it or to the side of it. And when I say slowing down, I'm talking about down to 53 miles per hour around one particular curve. Now, this is just an early feedback, but I can say that knowing the IONIQ 5 has HDA2. The IONIQ 5 does not do that, nor do Teslas that I've owned do that at all. So I hope again that maybe I'm misinterpreting something, or perhaps there's a setting within the menus that I don't know, maybe talk about steering angulation, and if it's greater than X with the speed at Y, then therefore back off on the speed. It wouldn't surprise me if Genesis put something in there like that. But it's also a little disconcerting because if this is what they're doing and they're just being ultra conservative with respect to HDA versus HDA2, I don't love that. I don't think it's going to be that big a deal when you're on 95 driving, you know, south from Connecticut to Florida. Not a lot of turns. I mean, there are turns, but it's for the most part a different type of road than the Merritt Parkway. So I'm going to keep my eye on that and report back. That's kind of interesting. So just a little commentary on HDA itself. The steering is very precise. The speed is very consistent. There's no wavering, and there's no sort of going faster and slower like I experienced in the ID4. And one of the other things that's really nice about this HDA and not having, I'm sad we don't have HDA2 in this car, but lane changes are super easy. Let me show you what I mean by that. I'm going to put on my turn signal, and I'm just going to steer over, and I'm going to turn my turn signal off, and then I'm going to keep going. Now, in a Tesla, if you've got basic autopilot without enhanced autopilot, when you put your turn signal on, it switches off. If I recall correctly, maybe they've changed this functionality, but it switches off the adaptive cruise, I think. And then what you have to do is you have to re-engage the adaptive cruise again. But on this car, you don't have to do that. So even though you don't have lane changes, when you do put the turn signal on, it does not deactivate the dynamic or adaptive cruise, which I would say is a significant difference between Tesla autopilot and this car with HDA. And I don't really miss HDA too. The scooch feature doesn't really seem to do anything in the IONIQ 5. And, you know, I was talking to Paul, he's got the EV6 GT line that has HDA2. He doesn't even notice the scooch feature. So, and then he said he doesn't even use the turn signals, the auto lane changing. So for those people that are concerned on a Genesis, and it's not just the GV60 that's missing HDA2, it's a lot of their high-end sedans, the GV7 or the G70, the G80, and also their gas-powered SUVs, that they don't have that. I would say you're not missing much. Do not buy the car because the car doesn't have HDA2. HDA1, it's fine. It works great. So Paul, I'm at 55.7 miles into the trip, and I remember last time we were into the trip, getting right off the Taconic as well, at the same mile marker, we had a discrepancy, and just forget about, you know, efficiency, forget about everything, just the odometer. And at this point, you were showing, when I was showing 55.5, you were showing 50 miles in the EV6. I'm showing 56.2 right now in the GV60. What are you showing in the IONIQ 5?
Well, I'm showing 56.3, which you must be showing the same. But
yeah.
Just to clarify, you were showing, I was showing 55, and you were showing 55.5.
Right.
You were 0.5 of a mile off.
Right. That's exactly right. That's what I remember. So I was 0.5 of a mile further than you, but yet now, from what I think I just heard you say, I'm at 56.6 right now, and you're 56.7. Where are you?
Yep, me too.
Okay,
me too.
so
Exactly.
So the IONIQ 5 and the GV60 agree perfectly with the odometer. Something is wrong and off with the EV6.
I think the EV6 thinks it's got 19s. No, what am I saying? That's not the case. That'd make it worse.
I don't know.
I don't know what's wrong with the EV6.
But we have two products from Hyundai agreeing, and one product that doesn't.
Right.
And it's from Kia, but it's Hyundai, but it's
right. Yeah, well, it's all the same. It's all the same, right? So, I don't know. That's kind of weird. All right. So then, what is your efficiency miles per kilowatt hour?
3.4.
3.4, and you absolutely are in eco mode, and I am too. And I'm at 3.1.
And I'm at 60% state of charge.
I'm at 56% of charge. So you know what that means?
We're turning around sooner.
That means this GV60 is a pig, and it's a nice looking pig, but it's a pig. You know what it is? It's the wheels, the 21s.
It's gotta be.
It's got.
Now you know why. Now you know why Ford derated the F-150 Lightning so much in the platinum trim. You know, it took a massive hit to towing capacity, right? Down from 10,000 to like 8,400 or 8,800.
Yeah.
And then 20 miles of range to the 22s.
Been a long day. We started at 2 o'clock, Paul. I think it is 10:30 at night, and I will say that this GV60, while I love the ride and everything that is doing in this car, it is a thirsty beast, because we arrived here in the IONIQ 5 with a 44% state of charge the last time, and this time, Paul, you pulled in with 45%.
Yes.
45% state of charge, and it's 95.3 or 95.5 miles away from Stanford's EA station. And I started with 80%. You did as well.
Yes.
And you have a 45% state of charge?
Yes.
I have 39% state of charge. That means I've used 41% state of charge. Am I going to make it back there? I think I will, because of the buffer that I've proven in this car, at least in the E-GMP platforms. Hopefully there's a buffer in this car, because if there isn't, we're getting out the tow rope, you know, so, but hopefully that won't be the case. But we are at the halfway point. We've been in eco mode. Look, I just started up the car again and came up in eco mode.
Okay.
It didn't start up in normal mode on this. What, can you start that one and tell me if that's going into back into eco mode as well? There's so much going on here. We were just talking about this. There's something wrong with the EV6 odometer, though.
Yeah, it's in eco mode.
It is in eco mode. So I don't think I was in eco mode for the first half of that first leg, but the difference, we'll have to look at the data, but the difference was only 1%. Interesting. All right, well, good news is we're up at a higher altitude here on the Taconic. I think I'll make it back. I'm not worried about it. I never worry about these things, but Paul's point was it's downhill. It's all downhill from here. So 3.4 miles per kilowatt?
Yes.
I'm at 3.
Okay.
So yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that if you're looking for a good road tripper, this GV60 it'll be fine, but it's not anywhere near as efficient as the IONIQ 5, and I believe the EV6 is even considerably more efficient. So all the rumors that people have been saying that the EV6 is more efficient than the IONIQ 5 is true, and all the sort of thoughts that the GV6 would not be is coming true. Now, granted, this GV60 has the 21-inch wheels. I wonder what it would be like in the standard form. Probably very similar to the IONIQ 5 would be my thought. But anyway, well, we'll get this going, and we'll take it home. Well, here you can see 0%, 0 miles, doing 55. I still don't feel any power limited. I've got 4% SOC BMS, got the cute little turtle, and I'm still feeling pretty confident here, folks. I'm feeling all right. So we're just gonna keep the faith and just try and keep it around, what am I doing, 60? I'll probably slow it down a little bit. Maybe go down to 55. But Long Ridge Road is coming up. then we're going to keep the speeds low. And
Hazard reported ahead.
hazard reported ahead. We're a hazard. We're a hazard running down the road here. I don't know what you're talking about, Waze. Anyway, check in soon. Probably next stop, Stanford. I think we're going to make it. So one of the things this GV60 has that the IONIQ 5 and EV6 don't, I mentioned this before, is the battery preconditioning feature. And I do have that turned on. And my understanding is that in order to invoke the battery preconditioning, you need to put in your destination into the Genesis navigation system. So even though I'm using Waze through Apple CarPlay, I'm not using that to guide me to where I need to go, but I'm using that for hazards and different things like that. But by putting the navigation, Genesis navigation destination as Electrify America in Stanford, very easy. I just hit the voice activated button. I said, guide me to Electrify America in Stanford. It came up, it gave me 6 different choices of Electrify Americas. The first one was Stanford. It says choose number 1. I chose number 1 and it came up. So we'll see if the battery preconditioning message comes on at some point. We're about 85 miles away from Electrify America. It's 10:48 p.m. now. So Paul just called, checking in on me to see how I'm doing, and now that we're on 84 East, we kicked up the speeds to, I think, 68. Speed limit is 65 on this road, but I have a little bit of a challenge here, a little bit of a problem. We're 39 miles away from Electrify America in Stanford, and the car is telling me I've got 41 miles in the tank. So as we kick up the speeds, I've got a 2 or 3 mile buffer. I got to be careful here. So I'm gonna I won't have any issues making it. I'm just gonna have to manage it with speed. Paul, maybe you know this, but are there any ice machines between here and Stanford?
I don't know if the plug is outside.
You know, I mean, that's my patented fallback, the ice machine, but I'd rather not do that. Here it is, 11:27 p.m. I'm kind of tired. Although the last time I hit the ice machine, I think it was 5 in the morning, so I'm not sure if it's early or late right now. But I think we're just going to try to you know, do a little bit of a soft landing on this range test. But clearly the car is a thirsty girl. So how are you doing with the IONIQ 5?
Is 144.6 miles, 3.4 miles per kilowatt, and I'm at 25% state of charge.
Okay, I'm at 17% state of charge. So we've got a little bit of a situation here. I've only got 8 miles of range left on this GV60. This is really quite interesting. I was joking before about whether or not there was an ice machine, but you know, clearly I don't know if I'm going to make this. This is going to be interesting. So the situation is that the car says that I've got 3.3% state of charge. Let me just kill this navigation in Waze. So the car says I've got 3% state of charge, but my car scanner app says I've actually got 3.5% state of charge. However, and what that translates into is 7 miles, but I'm 12 miles away from the Stanford Electrify America. But this is very reminiscent of what happened to me when I was driving down to Florida in the IONIQ 5, and I've got 5.5% buffer according to the car scanner app, which I'm not sure if you can see this on the GoPro, but the lower left hand corner, it says 8. That's 8% SOC BMS, whereas the car itself is displaying 3.5. Now it just went down to 7.5 as it went up a hill. So I am confident we are going to make it. It's going to say 0%. The car's going to say 0% shortly, but unfortunately, I have experience here. And Paul, he watched my ice machine video. He's like, Dave, you're making a big deal about nothing. You got 5% state of charge buffer. So let's go. You can make it. And I actually agree with him. I think that we're fine. Well, I can confirm that the turtle in the GV60 has just as cute as tail. His tail is just as cute as the turtle in the IONIQ 5. I just hit 0%. It says power limited, but I don't feel power limited. I'm going 58 miles an hour and up a pretty big hill here on the Merritt right now, and I don't feel any limitation of power. The car says 0% on the screen. The car scanner app says 0 now. It just went to 0. It was at 0.5 for quite a while, but I have 4.5% state of charge BMS according to the car scanner app. Well, anyway, the antics continue. I really did not expect this tonight with this GV60. I'm learning the car. It seems to have the same exact behavior as far as buffer, which is great, because boy, does this car need a buffer. It's thirsty. I know I keep saying that, but it's like dehydrated or something. I don't know. The green lights. Look at this. Good old GV60. I knew you had it in you. All right, so we have made it, and actually I'm going to pull in this way over here. There's Paul's EV6, and there he is in my IONIQ 5, and this is a very nice sight to see as we pull in with 2.5%. Let me just pull up a little. Okay, we are good. We are good to go. 2.5% state of charge on the app, and 0%. It's been on 0% for a long time. I cannot thank you enough. You are the man. How does it that I've only met you now? This is crazy. I love the confidence that you had in I don't know if it was in me or the car, but the experience that we had, you know, with the ice machine, knowing we had this state of charge BMS and the buffer in there. It's a 5.5% buffer on all these E-GMP cars. And that's a good thing. I think Hyundai's done a good thing. They've saved me twice now. So, I mean, I didn't feel any limitation in the car. The turtle kept coming up saying hi, but he wasn't like, you know, he was yelling at me, but it didn't feel any. No, it didn't throttle me back. So I'm going to try right now. I'm going to try to plug in. This car is supposed to have plug and charge. Can you hold that for me? Thank you, sir. All right, let me plug this thing in here. There we go. And let's see what happens. I wonder. Yeah, connecting to vehicle. This is good. Pay by credit card. No.
Hit the member tab.
Member?
Okay, pass reader is currently unavailable. I don't think it's recognizing the car.
All right, we'll do it the old way. Well, we tried. I don't know. We'll talk to Hyundai another day about this. So I'm having trouble activating the Hyundai on the Hyundai account with my Electrify America app. Apparently it'll only let me charge one car at a time, even though I own two different cars. So I'm probably gonna have to call EA on that and figure it out, because I can switch over to my Hyundai free charging app, but I can't actually charge it. It's not allowing me to do that. But look at this right here. It's been charging for 5 minutes. It's pulling 221 at 21% state of charge. So this is quite an amazing thing. So this car just did 0 to 70% in 18 minutes. And I know it says 19 minutes now, but it was at 18 minutes, it was at 70%. And then what did it ramp down, Paul, from?
It ramped down from 115.
115 down to 33, right? 32, 33.
Right. Massive cliff.
Massive cliff at 70%, but still, so when Hyundai says 10 to 80% 18 minutes, you can also say 0 to 70% in 18 minutes.
Yeah.
Which is still 70% of the pack consistent. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's an interesting point. Paul, I don't even know what to say. You are the man. I cannot thank you enough for this day. We started at what time? Well, you left Cape Cod this morning at what time? We didn't even talk about this.
Yeah, I pulled out of Cape Cod at 8 o'clock.
8 o'clock in the morning, you left for Cape Cod. You came directly here?
No, I had to stop in Wellington.
So you went home,
Yep.
up by,
Picked up the car.
and
then drove Wellington to here is like 105 miles.
so how far was it from Cape Cod to here, to home?
About 160 miles.
160, then you drove another 105, then you got here around 2 o'clock, I think,
Yeah.
something like that.
2 o'clock.
And then we did one round trip, and I don't know, it wasn't enough, so he said, let's go, we'll do another round trip, and we just finished. What time is it? Do you even know?
12:50.
12:50.
No, I'm sorry, 12:40.
12:40, okay. And you still have another, how far of a drive home?
105 miles.
105 miles. So, look, that's unbelievable. But what's even more unbelievable is this day and these cars. And the IONIQ 5, great machine. The Genesis, great machine. They drive amazingly. We've learned that the Genesis is a pig, is very hungry. We've been at this now for 10 hours, and the EV6 over there, I think that's the winner. I think, but we have to figure out, why is the odometer off?
I think what we have to do is we've got to take the Win and the GT
Yes.
and the Genesis on a loop
Okay.
and see where the odometer is.
I think so. And you know what you should do with your son is definitely just check out see if there's a difference between the Wind and the GT, because maybe somehow they have your GT coded for 19s.
I'm gonna do that this week.
But if they're both accurate or inaccurate, then we got to talk. There's so much information here to digest. I'm sure I'll put this into a spreadsheet. We'll probably have some follow-up videos, but one thing's for sure, the E-GM platform, these cars are here in the United States. They are amazing machines, super comfortable to drive. And Paul, I can't thank you enough again. Thank you so much. Have a great trip home. All right, 25 minutes and 80%. There it is. So we went from literally less than 0% to 80% in 25 minutes. That is stellar. Stellar. Stop this. Now I got to get this thing plugged in over there. I was unable to do it before, so I'm going to do it now. My last charging session with my trusty IONIQ 5. I will miss this car tremendously, but I have to figure out why I was unable to charge on two separate accounts, the GV60 account, using the same app. I wonder if I have to open a different instance. I don't really know. But this car is, there it is, charging started. It's currently at, I think, 7% state of charge. There's a couple of different factors here at play. Still a great session, but my conclusion on this GV60 is that while it is an awesome car, great daily driver, sure you can take it on the road, the IONIQ 5 is better for a road tripper. It seems like the EV6 is the best of the three, which is not surprising to me. The wheels on this car, I think, are just killing it. I think that also in terms of the range, but also that front end, that's a lot of, doesn't look like it's super efficient. It's a beautiful design, but I think we have proven that this is not an efficient car. Still love it a lot, but it's not an efficient car. So here we are back at the charging session here, 2 minutes in. We're already at 16, 17%. In 2 minutes, we got 10% state of charge. So these cars continue to charge extremely well. So we've gone from 7 to 31%, just turned over, 220 kilowatts. Great session. So 8 minutes in, 42% state of charge, 43%, still pulling 224 or 225 kilowatt. One of the thoughts I had is that I really don't think I was in eco mode for the first leg of the trip in the IONIQ 5. But what's interesting is that with the IONIQ 5, I pulled in with 11% on the first leg in normal mode or comfort mode. And then when Paul drove the car, he pulled in with 7% and he was in eco the whole time. So look, I think we were driving the cars relatively gently, and in both cases though. So the only variable that I can see is temperature, but temperature dropped from 82 to 66 or so. Is that really enough of a factor? I don't know. Notice the behavior at when the state of charge hits 70%. Currently we're pulling 162 kilowatts and 14 minutes in from 7% all the way to 69% on the IONIQ 5, the last charge of my ownership of this car. But when it hits 70%, it seems that on most of the charging sessions we've had today, they tend to drop off, go down to about 114, 115. But interestingly enough, not on this session. Look at this. We're still pulling 163, 161 at 71%, 72% state of charge. 72% state of charge, still pulling 150. Now it's starting to taper. No, it's sticking with it. So, excellent charging session here by the IONIQ. It's maybe sad. I don't know. Maybe it's trying to show me that it has what it takes to stay in the Connor fleet and not to sell me. I don't know, but look at this, 74%. 74% still pulling 150. This is just phenomenal performance. 16 minutes in. It says 2 minutes until 80%. If this charges to 80% from 7%, well, no, it needs another 5%, but It's still pulling 150. Wonder if it can do it. It's now up to 76. The Encore Performance still pulling 151 at 77%. Now remember, folks, this car was at 7%, not 10%. So it's gone from 7% to 77% in 17 minutes. I don't know why it's not ramping down. Still pulling 153. This is just amazing. Impressive. Stellar. What other adjectives can I use? "17 minutes in." Now it just ramped down to 117. 18 minutes. 79%. Let's see if it can tick over to 80% while it's still at 18 minutes. If so, this could be one of the best charging sessions I've seen since I've owned this car. There it is, 80%. From 7% to 80% in 18 minutes. Wow. Hyundai IONIQ 5, take a bow. I'm proud of you. Awesome.